A 68-year-old woman stands in her kitchen, making her morning coffee. It's a normal morning. Quiet. Routine. And then something changes. The cup slips from her hand. Not because she dropped it. Not because she was distracted. Her hand simply stopped responding. She tries to call out to her husband, but the words don't come out right. They're slow, slurred, broken. One side of her face begins to droop. At that moment, she realizes something is very wrong. She is having a stroke. No pain, no warning, no dramatic collapse, just a sudden loss of control over her own body. But here's the part most people have never been told. Before the ambulance even arrived, before any medication, before any medical intervention, she did one simple thing. Something most people would never think to do in that moment. And later, the emergency physician told her family, that action likely prevented permanent brain damage. She didn't try to push through it. She didn't wait to see if it would pass. And most importantly, she didn't panic. She changed her body position and controlled her breathing in a very specific way. And that decision may have protected her brain when every second mattered. Here's the reality. In the United States, someone suffers a stroke every 40 seconds. But what almost no one talks about is what happens before help arrives. Those first few minutes, before paramedics, before the hospital, before any treatment, often determine the outcome. Whether someone recovers fully or lives with permanent damage. In this video, you're going to learn two things every adult over 60 needs to understand. First, the early warning signs your body sends seconds before a stroke fully develops. And second, a simple, research-backed response that may help maintain blood flow to the brain while emergency help is on the way. This is not guesswork. This is not internet advice. This is based on how your body actually responds under stress and what happens inside the brain during those first critical moments. But to understand why this matters, you need to understand something most people get wrong. A stroke doesn't usually begin the way people imagine. It doesn't start with a sudden collapse. It often starts quietly, subtly, easy to miss, easy to dismiss. Think of your brain like a city powered by electricity. Every thought, every movement, every word depends on a constant flow of blood delivering oxygen. Now imagine one of those pathways becomes blocked. Not completely, not yet. Just enough to interrupt the flow. A small part of that system begins to fail. Sometimes it recovers, and that's where people make a dangerous assumption. They think it was nothing. In reality, that moment may have been a warning, what doctors call a transient ischemic attack, often referred to as a mini-stroke. But there is nothing minor about it. It is your brain signaling that something more serious may be about to happen. And this is where most people make a critical mistake. They ignore it, because the symptoms don't last. A brief weakness, a moment of confusion, a short episode of dizziness. Then everything seems normal again, so they move on. But inside the brain, the situation is already changing, and time is no longer on your side. In the next section, I'm going to show you the exact warning signs you should never ignore, including one that most people overlook completely. Now let's talk about the signals, because in many cases, your body does try to warn you. The problem is, most people don't recognize what they're feeling as danger. They explain it away, they minimize it, or they wait. And that delay is where the real risk begins. Here are the warning signs you should never ignore, even if they last only seconds. Sudden numbness or weakness on one side of the body. Not general fatigue, but a clear difference between one side and the other. An arm that feels heavy.
A leg that doesn't respond the way it should. Difficulty speaking. Not just forgetting a word, but struggling to form a sentence. Words come out slow, or they don't come out at all. Sometimes, what you hear also stops making sense. A change in the face. One side may begin to droop. The smile becomes uneven. It can be subtle, but it's one of the clearest signs something is wrong. Vision changes. Blurry vision, dark areas, or a sudden loss of sight in one or both eyes.
Dizziness or loss of balance. Not when you stand up too quickly, but when you're already sitting or standing still and suddenly feel unstable. And one of the most overlooked signs, a sudden, unusual headache that feels different from anything you've experienced before. No clear cause, no gradual buildup, just immediate and intense. Now here's what makes this dangerous. These symptoms don't always stay. They can appear and disappear within 30 to 60 seconds. And when they disappear, most people assume everything is fine. They tell themselves, "It passed. I'm okay. It was probably nothing." But that's not what's happening. When symptoms fade, it doesn't mean the danger is gone. It means your brain has already been affected, and the situation may be developing further. This is the window most people miss, the moment where action matters most. There's also something else that makes this even harder. Many older adults have been conditioned not to react unless something feels extreme. They don't want to overreact. They don't want to call for help too early. So they wait. They observe. They try to push through it. But a stroke is not something you push through. It's something you respond to immediately. Another challenge is confusion between normal aging and a medical emergency. Feeling lightheaded after standing up quickly, that can be harmless. But sudden dizziness while sitting still, that's different. Forgetting where you placed your keys, that's common. But suddenly being unable to form a clear sentence, that's not. The difference can be subtle, but understanding it can protect your brain. Because behind these symptoms, something very specific is happening. Blood flow to the brain is being interrupted. And when oxygen delivery drops, brain cells begin to suffer within minutes. Here's the critical part most people never hear. In the earliest stage, before the blockage becomes complete, there is a short window where your body can still compensate. Blood flow has not fully collapsed yet. And that window is where your response can make a measurable difference. In the next part, I'm going to show you exactly what to do in those first moments. The same method that woman used before help arrived. And why something as simple as body position can change how blood reaches your brain. Now let's talk about what to do. Because in that moment, when something feels wrong, you don't have time to razmyślać. You need something simple, clear, and repeatable. This is the method that woman used, and it's based on a simple principle. When blood flow to the brain is threatened, your body position and breathing can influence circulation. Here's exactly what to do the moment symptoms appear. First, do not panic. That may sound obvious, but it's critical. Panic causes your breathing to become shallow. Your heart rate becomes unstable. Blood vessels can constrict. All of this reduces oxygen delivery to the brain. Your first priority is stability. Sit down immediately. If possible, lie down. Preventing a fall is essential. If you can lie down, lie flat on your back. On a bed, a couch, or even the floor. Then elevate your legs, about 10 to 12 inches. Use pillows, cushions, or anything available. This position matters because it helps redirect blood from the lower body back toward the chest and upward to the brain. You're using gravity to support circulation. Now comes the second part, breathing. This is where most people make a mistake. They start breathing quickly and irregularly.
But what your body needs is controlled oxygen delivery. Begin slow, steady breathing. Inhale through your nose for about 4 seconds. Hold gently for 2 seconds. Then exhale slowly through your mouth for 6 seconds. This pattern is intentional. It helps increase oxygen levels in the blood. It also calms the nervous system and supports more stable blood pressure. Together, these two actions, positioning and controlled breathing, can help maintain blood flow to the brain while help is on the way. This is not a treatment. It does not replace emergency care, but it can buy time. And in a stroke situation, time is everything. Now imagine this moment. You feel something is wrong. Your speech is off. Your body feels uneven.
Instead of freezing, you know exactly what to do. You lie down. You elevate your legs. You control your breathing. That sense of control matters, because panic makes everything worse. Calm action supports your body. Slow breathing helps preserve oxygen. It keeps your thinking clearer. It gives you a better chance to call for help or signal someone nearby. So let me be very clear. If you notice these warning signs, do not wait. Do not test yourself. Do not try to walk it off. Get horizontal. Elevate your legs. Control your breathing. And get help immediately. Simple actions. No equipment. No medication. But actions that can support your body during one of the most critical moments. Now here's something many people don't realize. Even after a stroke, the brain has an ability to adapt and recover. And what happens in the hours and days after can change the outcome more than most expect. Now here's something most people don't expect. Even after a stroke, the brain doesn't simply shut down. It adapts. There are cases where people lose speech and then regain it, lose coordination and then relearn movement. At first, it seems impossible. But the brain has a mechanism called neuroplasticity. It means your brain can reorganize itself. When one pathway is damaged, others can begin to take over. Think of it like a road system. If a major highway is blocked, traffic doesn't stop completely. It finds another route. Slower at first, less efficient. But over time, that new route becomes stronger. Your brain works the same way. But here's what most people don't realize. That process doesn't start months later. It starts early. The first 24 to 48 hours are critically important. But what you do after that matters just as much. Small actions begin the recovery process. Slow, controlled movement. Even simple hand or finger motion. Breathing with intention. Even imagining movement activates parts of the brain. And consistency matters more than intensity. A few minutes every day is more powerful than occasional effort. There's also another factor most people underestimate: nutrition. After 60, what you eat directly affects how your blood flows and how your brain functions. Foods rich in omega-3s, antioxidants, and natural nitrates support circulation. Fish like salmon, leafy greens, beets, berries. These aren't just healthy foods. They directly influence how efficiently oxygen reaches your brain. And research has shown that consistent habits like these can significantly reduce the risk of another stroke. Recovery is not luck. It's biology, guided by repetition and time. Now let's talk about prevention. Because the goal is not just to react, it's to reduce the risk before anything happens. The key word here is circulation. When blood moves well, the brain functions well. When it doesn't, problems develop silently. One of the most effective habits takes less than 3 minutes. and it happens in the morning. Before you stand up, sit on the edge of your bed. Take 3 slow, deep breaths. Let your lungs fully expand. Then begin a simple movement. Lift your heels, then your toes, back and forth, for about 1 minute. This activates your calf muscles, sometimes called your second heart, because they help push blood back up toward the brain. Then, gently move your shoulders and neck. Slow, controlled, no strain. These small movements increase circulation right at the start of your day. And when you combine this with hydration, just a glass of water in the morning, you support your entire system. These habits may seem simple, but over time, they make a measurable difference. And it's not just movement. Sleep matters. Stress matters. Chronic stress causes blood vessels to tighten. But calm states, relaxation, laughter, connection, help them open. Even simple things like sunlight, music, or time with people you trust have a physiological effect. They support blood flow. And flexible blood vessels are critical for brain health. Let's go back to where we started. That woman in her kitchen. When something went wrong, she didn't freeze. She didn't ignore it. She acted. She lay down. She elevated her legs. She controlled her breathing. And that decision may have protected her brain. That's what preparation does. It turns panic into action. This is not about living in fear. It's about being ready. Because if that moment ever comes, you won't have time to think, only to act. So remember this. When something feels wrong, lie down. Elevate your legs. Breathe slowly. Simple, clear, and potentially life-saving. And one more thing. Share this with someone you care about, because the person who needs this information may not be watching this video.